I begin this part 2 of discussion on culpable homicide and murder. What I discussed in part 1, that was basically 3 major points. I said number 1, that it is 5-stage inquiry. First, death should occur. Then causal connection should be established between offense and the offender. Third, I said you are required to establish that it should fall in any of 3 clauses of section 299, A, B or C. And then I said that top to bottom, left to right. Top to bottom, left to right. If your case falls in 299A, it will go in 300 firstly. If your case falls in 299B, 299A, it goes in 300 firstly. If your case falls in 299B, your case goes in 300 secondly or 300 thirdly. And then if your case falls into 99C, then your case will go into 300 fourthly. Now, whether this will go, whether the bridge will be crossed or not, that is another question. So, please try to understand this point also. It is not necessary that the case will always go in this 300 firstly and this 300 secondly or thirdly or fourthly. It is not so. Here I said it's a kind of slider where the case will go in 300 firstly. There is no doubt. There is no doubt. I hope you understood this point, how this travel has to take place. So when there is death, it can come into 99A or into 99B or into 99C, top to bottom and left to right, left to right. This is what I discussed yesterday. So death was one thing. Then I said causal connection second. Third, I said it should fall into 99. Then fourth, I said it should come here in 300. And then I said in fifth stage, it may go into exceptions. So if it goes in any of the exception, then it will come back. Exception to section 300. I am talking of section 300. So these exceptions will take the case back to 299, either A or B or C, depending upon from where it comes back. If it comes back from 300 firstly, 299A. If it comes back from 300 secondly and thirdly, then it will go to 299B, and similarly 300 fourthly, so it will go back to 299C due to exception. It will revert, it will come back. It will come back. Is this clear? Is this clear? Everybody says clear. That's really very, very good. So let me begin our discussion. I made a comment yesterday that see, whatever case comes in 299A, that has to go definitely in 300 firstly. Then I raised the question, then what is the utility of 299A? I explained that 299A has this utility that unless and until a case is culpable homicide, it will not go in murder. I'll read the 300 again, 300 language I'll read and I'll explain 300 because I have already explained 299. So it will come back. If 300 firstly goes in exception, it will come back to 299. So this is one utility. And another utility, I said the case has to go from 299A to 300 firstly. So first utility, first case will come in 299A, then only it will go in 300 firstly. This is first utility of 299. Then I said, if case goes in 300 firstly, but falls in any of the exception, falls in any of the exception to section 300, exception to section 300, then it will go back to, it will come back to section 299. So this is section 299A. So two utility of 299A. One this utility and another this utility, that the case unless until it comes in 299, it cannot go in 300 firstly. So I hope you understand this point. And I said there is a slider, the case comes in 299, it will automatically go in 300 firstly. There is no distinction as such between the two. Is this clear? Then 299B. I said 299B. I have given beautiful distinction also yesterday, and I am repeating this. It says with the intention of causing such bodily injury as is likely to cause death. Now, some people may ask the question, what is the meaning of this word likely? What is the meaning of this word likely? Now, let me explain to you. If you are asked a question, will you come tomorrow? I may come or may not come. So, there is likelihood that you may come or may not come. Likelihood. You are not sure and certain. But here it is question of likely to, now bodily injury should be such as is likely to cause death. Likely to cause death. It is not certain, but likely to cause death. So, what is the difference between likely versus certain? So, I will say, now I can give you a rough idea that certain means 100%. It is bound to happen. It is bound to happen. Nobody can escape. Nobody can be rescued. Nobody can come out of it. He has to die. He has to die. Like death is certain. We are not immortal. We are bound to die. So this is what is certainty. There can be no other course, no other option. Is this clear? If I give bullet injury from point blank range to somebody, and that too now from very near distance, can he escape? The answer is no, not at all. It is certain that the death will be there. But now there may be some situations where death may not occur. There may be some situations where it may be that the death will not occur. There may be some situation like that. So that is the situation where likely now, out of 10 cases, I may say that in 6 to 7 cases, death will be there. 3 to 4 cases, death may not be there. This is what is likely. That is what I can say in very brief for your level. What is likely? And C299B says, with the intention of causing such bodily injury. So you must understand. See, one by one you have to understand everything. You must understand that in 299A, you had intention to cause death. Whereas in 299B, you have intention to cause bodily injury. I'm not concerned with the question that whether you intended to cause death or not. Your desire was to cause death or not. I'm not concerned with that question. I'm not concerned with that question. I'm concerned with this question, that whether you intended to cause bodily injury. I have found a bodily injury on the body of the victim, and I want to ask this question only, whether it is intentional bodily injury or not. Tell me only this question. And then your role is over. This is what is subjective inquiry, in the sense that I will look into the intention of offender, intention of accused, and I will ask this question to the accused, whether you intended to cause bodily injury or not. Now, whether this bodily injury will result in death or not, that's a different matter altogether. So that is what is called bodily injury as is likely to cause death. As is likely to cause death. So see, again, you must understand, as is likely to cause death is a different inquiry. Intention to cause death, cause bodily injury is a different inquiry. These are two different inquiries. These are two different inquiries in your trial process. You must understand. I will ask intention to cause bodily injury was there or not to the accused. And if there is bodily injury, we will presume that you intended to cause this bodily injury. Now it is your duty, your job, your role to say that I never intended to cause this bodily injury. This is accidental, this is unfortunate, it has happened, whatever. But we will presume, the court will presume that you intended to cause bodily injury because bodily injury is there. As is now, whether this bodily injury is likely to cause death or what, that is another inquiry. This is objective. This is objective. And intention to cause bodily injury, this is always subjective. Whether you intended to cause this injury or not, you tell me this. You tell me this. I hope 299B is clear to you. Now this 299B has to go in 300 secondly or has to go in 300 thirdly. Now 300 secondly, I explained to you that with the intention of causing such bodily injury as the offender knows. With the intention of causing such bodily injury with the intention of causing such bodily injury as the offender knows. As the offender knows to be likely to cause, see carefully, very carefully, cause the death of the person to whom the harm is caused. I'll not write much, I'll stop here, something else is written. So here it is intention of causing such bodily injury, intention to cause such bodily injury as the offender knows, to be likely to cause that. Now there can be a question in your mind or in anybody's mind for that matter, that here it is written with the intention of causing such bodily injury which the offender knows to be likely to cause the death of the person. And 299B says intention of causing such bodily injury as is likely to cause death. Now, for proper understanding of this 299B and 300 secondly, you can refer to this explanation 1, which says a person who causes bodily injury to another, who is laboring under a disorder, disease or bodily infirmity and thereby accelerates the death of the other, shall be deemed to have caused his death. A person who causes bodily injury. So explanation 1 also deals with bodily injury. Is this clear? It also deals with bodily injury. Explanation 1. A person who causes bodily injury to another who is laboring under a disorder, disease or bodily infirmity. So, if a person is laboring under a disorder or disease or bodily infirmity and thereby accelerates the death, then obviously there is some implied special knowledge that you know that he is laboring under a disorder, disease or bodily infirmity. If you do not have knowledge and if you cause this injury, then the case is different. Suppose I don't know, you listen to me carefully, I don't know that Jad is laboring under some disease or infirmity or some disorder, and I give him a fist blow and he dies. Can I be held liable for 300 secondly? No. But my question is not that. My question is, can I be held liable for 299B even? The answer is no. So what does it mean? Can by fist blow you can cause death of somebody? No. Can it be said that in this case it is likely to cause death? No. But 300 secondly says intention of causing such bodily injury as the offender knows. And I know if I give him a fist blow and he has enlarged spleen, he will die. So case will come in 300 secondly. So my question is that it seems that the case will come in 300 secondly, but this is not likely to cause death in 299B. So how the case will come in 300 secondly when it doesn't pass the bridge of or pass the hurdle of 299B? What can we do in such situation? So I submit, my dear friend, that in 299B, we have some kind of implied knowledge. Then only you can proceed to to 300 secondly. Otherwise, how can we jump to 300 secondly? That is the problem. So in 299B, there will be some kind of implied knowledge. So you can now look to two different kind of situations where a person, I know that the person is laboring under a disorder, disease, and I don't know. I don't know. Or you think of a normal human being. So if a normal human being is there, a fist blow will not cause death. It is not likely to cause death. 299B is not attracted. Even if death occurs, now anybody will say that this injury is not likely to cause death, so 299B is not attracted. So even if death occurs, 299B is not attracted. It is not necessary that in all cases of death, 299 will apply. That will be the miscarriage of justice. That will be misunderstanding of law. Death not necessarily postulates application of 299 or 300. That is 304, which is punishes this culpable homicide not amounting to murder in 299, and 302, which punishes murder. I have already told you that there is now a section which defines some offense, and then there is another section which punishes. This is called charging section. So murder is defined in 300, punished in 302. Culpable homicide not amounting to murder is defined in 299, punishable in 304. So please be careful about this. So I said, if a normal human being is hit by a fist blow and he dies, can you attract 299B? No. It cannot be said to be likely to cause death. But if he is hit more, if he is bitten more, there may be a chance. Hurt is there, then grievous hurt is there, gradation is there. Now, first, there may be assault, then criminal force, then hurt, then grievous hurt, and then this culpable homicide. So this is in order of gradation. Now, criminal assault, that is threat. Criminal force, little bit use of force. Then hurt, then grievous hurt, and then this culpable homicide. So culpable homicide stands at the higher pedestal. All injuries which is given or all hurt which is done cannot be said to be, even if death occurs, cannot be said to be case of culpable homicide. Fist blow, no, not at all. So what 299B contemplates? 299B also contemplates, especially for this 300 secondly, that there is implied knowledge. There is implied knowledge. Must take care of this particular point, otherwise you will be under confusion. If there is a normal human being, not under any disease or infirmity, if there is disease or infirmity or disorder and you know 299B and 300 secondly applies. If you do not know and he dies unfortunately even by a fist blow, 299B is not attracted, 300 secondly is not attracted. At best it can be said to be a case of hurt. Then when there is a normal general human being of good health, now then this 300 thirdly can come in question. Now then there is question of normal healthy human being. Now you give him so much injury that it is likely to cause death. It is general. There is no question of knowledge. There is no question of knowledge. Try to appreciate the point which I am making right now. There is no question of knowledge. Normal, healthy human being. And now the case comes in 300 thirdly. Now, how it will come in 300 thirdly? 299B, I have already explained, likely that in out of 10 cases, 6, 7 cases, the person is likely to die. But 300 thirdly postulates a situation where death is sufficient or injury is sufficient to cause death. Death is almost certain, but it is through injury, not intention to cause death. If intention to cause death was there, then 300 firstly is attracted. Here it is intention to cause bodily injury. Let us read 300 thirdly again and let us understand it better even. It says, you read 300 thirdly, I will draw your attention towards this particular point in 300 thirdly, which is very, very important. Very, very important. If it is done with the intention of causing bodily injury, that is clear. Intention of causing bodily injury. Intention of causing bodily injury. This is clear. Then it says, to any person. Just notice, here it is changed. Any person. Here it was written, now the person. So this is what is there, where lies the difference, to any person. And the bodily injury. So this bodily injury intended to be inflicted. Now on this point, there is a case of Virsa Singh, very, very important. You should read it. Intended to be inflicted, it's sufficient. It's sufficient in ordinary course of nature. Very important to cause death. Here it doesn't say again, death of whom. It doesn't say. Death of whom. It says death. And here it says the death. You just see the difference. Here it says the death. And here it says death. It means death of anyone or any human being. Is this clear? Death of anyone. So, 303rd, Virsa Singh very clearly says, intention of causing bodily injury to any person. And the bodily injury intended to be inflicted. Now, just mark here, this is very, very important. The bodily injury intended to be inflicted, this is one part. And sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death is second part. This is, now let us say, this is second part and this is first part. Now first part, the bodily injury intended. So when the bodily injury is there, then you will have to examine whether this bodily injury was intentional or not. If it is not intentional, you cannot invoke 303rd. If it is accidental, so how the inquiry will be conducted, that see the bodily injury is there, we'll examine the bodily injury, we'll see the nature of bodily injury, and then we'll raise the question then and there that whether this injury was intentional or is intentional or not. Intentional or not. Intentional or not. And then second, sufficient in ordinary course of nature. Sufficient in ordinary course. Whether this injury is sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death or not. If it is sufficient, this is objective inquiry. This is objective inquiry. So subjective inquiry and objective inquiry. Is this clear? So section 303 requires two things. I hope you are very, very clear on this point. It never requires that this, now in Virsa Singh there was an argument that the person should have intended to cause sufficient injury to cause death. No. He should have understood, or he should know that this injury is sufficient to cause death. No. He should not know that. Sufficiency of injury is an objective inquiry. We'll ask him only one question, whether the injury was given by him or not, whether this is intentional or accidental or not. If it is proved that it is intentional, then the inquiry regarding the accused is clear. And then we'll move to the other part, that is whether this injury is sufficient in ordinary course. We'll prove it by medical evidence or another kind of report. We'll examine the medical personnel, and then how we'll reach to the conclusion. We'll see different reports, we'll examine different people, and then we'll reach to this report. This is altogether a very objective inquiry. I hope you understand, and all of us understand this point. Is this clear? So this is 299B and 302ndly and 303rdly. 303rdly talks of sufficiency of injury. 302ndly talks of knowledge. I have already said in 302ndly that you can pick an example from Mahabharata, where I said that who knows about Duryodhana it is Bhim who knows about Duryodhana, it is Krishna who knows about Duryodhana. So they can fall in the category of 300 secondly. Is this clear? Now, then we already read 299C, knowledge. Every sane man is presumed to know the natural consequences of his act. Knowledge of consequence is presumed. It is not knowledge of a fact, basically. It is presumed knowledge. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that if I throw a child in river, he will die because he is a child, he is below 1 year. If he is below 1 year, he cannot swim. Everybody knows this fact. So there you are not required to apply much mind, everybody knows. So everybody now is presumed to know the natural consequences of his act. So you can see this, we have already seen this, 299C and 300. So 299C talks of knowledge. And what makes it graver in 300 fourthly, I have already said, so imminently dangerous, imminently dangerous. And that too without must, in all probability, cause death. So imminently dangerous, must in all probability cause death, or such bodily injury as is likely to cause death. Cause death without any risk, without any excuse for incurring risk. So if there is excuse, the case will not come here. For example, I told you, a lady is running away from her husband and she had a child on her back, and at the time of anxiety, anxiousness, frustrated, dejected, she jumped into the well nearby just to avoid her husband. She left her home with the child, and then when she walked for some distance, then she found some sound coming from back, and when she turned back and she saw, then she found her husband. Dejected, disappointed, frustrated, she jumped into the nearby well. And unfortunately, the child on her back died. And she was rescued from the well. She was rescued. The child died. Now the question arose, can her case be covered here? The answer is that she had a kind of excuse. Her case at best can be covered here, in 299C, not in 300 fourthly. The reason being that she is incurring the risk of causing death or such injury as I first said. So she had a kind of excuse. So this is not without excuse, there is an excuse. Is this clear? Just understand the nuances which is there in 300. Let us come to the illustration of section 300, then we'll move forward and we'll see further. Now, A shoots Jed with the intention of killing him. Jed dies in consequence, he commits murder. Now, you see the illustration A. A shoots Jed. So, what is the intention? Intention to cause death. Death has occurred. Intention is there. So actus reus plus mens rea. Culpable homicide in 299A is there. And the case will automatically go in 300 firstly. So murder is there. Did you understand the point how I made it? Illustration B. This is beautiful, long illustration. A knowing that Jed is laboring under such a disease that a blow is likely to cause his death. He knows. This is spatial knowledge of his spatial victim, of his spatial element. What makes it graver, more criminal? So it says, A, knowing that judge is laboring under such a disease that a blow is likely to cause his death. He knows that a blow is enough. It strikes him with the intention of causing bodily injury. Jed dies in consequence of the blow. A is guilty of murder. Why? Because his case falls in. So unless and until it comes in 299B, how it will go? It will go in 302nd. That is why I said in 299B, we implied this knowledge. We implied this knowledge. Is this clear? So it says, although the blow might not have been sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death of a person in a sound state of health. So this is not about normal person. What I said, normal, healthy person. It is not normal. He is guilty, although he might not have been sufficient in the ordinary course. If it would have been caused to a healthy person, the death would not occur at all. You must understand this point. Death will not occur at all. A, knowing that Jed is laboring under such a blow is likely to cause his death. This is covered first in 299B. So here he should have knowledge. 299B he should have knowledge. You see explanation 1 also of section 299. It strikes him with the intention of causing bodily injury. Jed dies. Death has occurred. 299B is satisfied. Implied knowledge is there. In consequence, A is guilty of murder. Why? Why? Because there is spatial knowledge of a spatial element of a spatial victim. And this spatial knowledge of a spatial element of a spatial victim makes it more criminal. A is guilty of murder, although the blow might not have been sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause the death of a person in sound state of health. This blow might not have been sufficient in ordinary course. This cannot cause death of a normal, healthy person. That is what Macaulay says. But if a not knowing, if a not knowing that Jed is laboring under any disease gives him such a blow, A not knowing that Jed is laboring under any disease gives him such a blow as would not in ordinary course of nature kill a person in a sound state of health. Not knowing. If he doesn't know, if he doesn't have knowledge, A not knowing that Jed is laboring under any disease gives him such a blow as would not in ordinary course of nature kill a person in a sound state of health. Here A, although he may intend to cause bodily injury, is not guilty of murder if he did not intend to cause death or such bodily injury as in the ordinary course of nature would cause death. Not knowing. So see, illustration B makes it very clear. Illustration B makes it clear that knowledge of disease makes it a case of murder. Clear? But if a not knowing, no knowledge, no knowledge, not guilty of murder. Just try to understand this. Is this clear? Any doubt here? So, unless and until you have a spatial knowledge of a spatial element of a spatial victim, the case of 302 is not made out. No? If he did not intend to cause death. Normal healthy person के case में ये नहीं लगेगा. Because 300 secondly always says that you should have a spatial knowledge of a spatial victim. Now illustration C, A intentionally gives Z a sword cut or club wound sufficient to cause death of a man in the ordinary course. Sufficient. Z died in consequence. Here A is guilty of murder, although he may not have intended to cause death. So what his illustration C is showing, that the case will, you write like this, even if case does not fall in 300 firstly, even then it is murder if it falls in section 300 thirdly. Even if it does not fall in, even if case does not fall in section 300 firstly, even then it is murder if it falls in 300 thirdly. 300 firstly talks of intention to cause death. In all cases, intention to cause death is not required. Intention to cause bodily injury which is sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death will attract 300 thirdly. And there the inquiry will be only to this extent, that whether you intended to cause bodily injury or not. Whether you intended to cause death or not, we are not asking this question. And we are not concerned with that question. That is covered in 300 firstly. So you must understand the difference between 300 firstly and 300 thirdly. Here it is intention to cause death. And here it is intention to cause bodily injury. Is this clear? And this injury is sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death. Is this clear? Is this all right? Now, illustration D. A without any excuse fires a loaded cannon into a crowd of persons and kills one of them. A is guilty of murder, although he may not have had a premeditated design to kill any particular individual. We are not concerned with killing of a particular individual. Now, if you are firing without any excuse in a crowd, do you not know that somebody will die? And do you have any excuse? No. So this is covered by knowledge. In illustration D, you can see knowledge. Every sane man is presumed to know the natural consequences of his conduct. If you are firing cannon or a bullet, some student asked me one day that here it is cannon and if I say revolver or pistol, the same consequence. I say laughingly that when Macaulay wrote it, the cannon had the same impact which a gun has today, which a revolver has today. Is this clear? Macaulay wrote it around 1834 or something like that, 1843 around, and now we are in this 2021. So, knowledge, same impact. Now, knowledge is there that the gun shot will kill somebody. Now, so knowledge is there, and there is no exception, exemption, or any excuse. So, how can you? So, I hope by this discussion you must have understood, and we have what we have done basically, this distinction which I have drawn, it is basically based on this Justice Melville's profound distinction which he made in case of this state of AP versus R. Ponnaiah, and before that there are two very important, Justice Melville, now Govinda's case, and then this has been quoted in many cases. R versus Govinda. Justice Melville in R versus Govinda. It is a very famous case of 1876. And this has become the Bible of this distinction between Then Justice Sarkaria in State of AP versus R. Punaiya, he quoted again this, and this has been quoted time and again by the Honorable Apex Court. So be careful about this distinction, and you do read it, you will understand the difference between section 300 and 299 very, very carefully. And then the exceptions follow. We'll deal with the exceptions also. But let me have few minutes break here, please, and then I'll begin with the exception. If you have any question in between, you can ask me. So let us see the question in section 299, last sentence, knowledge and knowledge, same in both. No, not at all. Not at all. 299, knowledge is presumption. It is presumption of knowledge. Every sane man is presumed to know the natural consequences of his conduct. So that is presumed knowledge. And in this 299, 300 secondly, it is actual knowledge. I have told you several times that in 299 we presume, every sane man is presumed to know the natural consequences of his conduct. That is what is 299. And 300 secondly is that there is actual knowledge. There is actual knowledge. Actual knowledge about the particular element of particular victim. No? We have read it, we understand it, that he has actual knowledge of the thing. जैसे मैं बार बार आपको उदाहरण से भी बताया, I have told you several times by example also, that if you fire a gun in the crowd, do you not know that somebody will be killed? This is presumed knowledge. Law will impute this knowledge. But 300 secondly, you actually know about the particular element of particular victim. So in illustration B, there is illustration B, just let me see. In illustration B, it is written that A is guilty of murder, although the blow might not have been sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death. But if not knowing that Z is laboring under any disease gives him such a blow as would not in the ordinary course of nature kill a person in sound, here, although he may have intended to cause bodily injury, he is not guilty of a murder. If he did not intend to cause death or such bodily injury, yes, in second part you can say, in illustration B, second part you can say this will be simple hurt. But Macaulay is not trying to answer the question of hurt, he is just trying to convince us or tell us that see in the illustration B, which is in two parts, in first part as you know about the particular element of particular victim, so you will be held liable for murder, but in second part you do not know, so you will not be held liable for murder. Is this all right, Vikas? Pratik Suriseti, what would be excuse under section 304th? Excuse, I told you, my dear friend, like excuse of that lady, that she did not have that in mind that she is carrying the child at her back, because she was at the time of jumping into the well, she was really in not proper state of mind, she was panicked. So, being in the panic state of mind is the excuse there. There can be different kind of excuses. You may be in such a situation where you cannot think properly, you cannot take cool, calm decision. So that is what is the excuse. Panic is the excuse there in that case of the lady. That she is trying to run away from her husband, but she is not able to do it. If an act falls under 299 and 300, are punishment awarded under both? If not, what is the legal reason for the same? All right. Just try to understand the point. If a case goes in section 299 and then section 300, so when it reaches to 300, it has crossed 299. So why will you punish him here also in section 304? I will punish him in section 302. If you pass preliminary and then you pass mens also, so what we will say, that did you qualify mens, or will say only that you qualified preliminary? Once you qualify preliminary, then only you can appear in mens. But you will be said to have qualified mens now. We will not introduce you as that you qualified pre. We never say that Pratik Suriseti has qualified pre now. We will say that you qualified mens and you are eligible for interview now. So similarly here, now we will take always higher offense. We do not take this lower, lesser offense. No? In all grievous hurt, there will be hurt. But when the grievous hurt is there, will you punish for grievous hurt or hurt? In all robbery, there is either theft or extortion. So when robbery is committed, we will not punish him for theft. Sir, it means if the person dies, then in all cases section 300 will be attracted. No, sir, not at all. Not at all. I have very clearly told you. My dear friend, no, not at all. Not at all. That there may be death. But if this death is not supported by causal connection and intention or knowledge of section 299, can your case come in section 299? No. 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 So death does not mean that your case is covered. Here is 299. This death may be accidental. This death may be legal death. May not be culpable death. Like execution of death sentence. Are you getting the point? When there is death, then only we'll raise question of causal connection between death and the offender. If this is established, causal connection is established, then we'll see intention or knowledge. Then we'll talk of section 299. If the intention is missing, knowledge is missing, can you attract section 299? No, not at all. Death does not mean that the case is covered there in 299. No, no, no. It may be, this death may fall in general exception. There are different general exceptions. Section 82 may be there, section 84 may be there, where it is said no offense. So it cannot go in section 300. And then when your case is covered in section 299, then it will go in section 300. What is the difference between likely and ordinary courts? Likely, I have told you that like now in 10 cases, 6, 7 cases, death is there. I can give you this kind of idea, likely. And ordinary courts, now ordinary courts and likely, why do you want to differentiate between the two? Ordinary courts is about section 300 thirdly. Section 300 thirdly talks of sufficient injury, injury sufficient to cause death. So your focus should be here. That injury is sufficient, sufficiency of injury is there in 300 thirdly. We are not concerned with ordinary course is written that the injury is sufficient in ordinary course to cause death. If you give now 50 lathi blows on the head of somebody, will he die or not? Tell me. So our focus on 300 thirdly is on this point, that the injury is sufficient in ordinary course to cause death. Now you have tied somebody's hand and leg and you have now given him kind of chloroform whereby he has become inactive and he has become senseless, and then you throw his body into the nearby pond. So is it sufficient to cause death or not? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. So that is what is the context here. Ordinary course it will be sufficient to cause death. Would not you go from reading 299C to reading 300 also, and not just in… Why? Why we'll do it? No, not at all. We'll never do it. Why? I tell you. 299C, it is not mathematics. 299C talks of knowledge. And 299A talks of intention. 299B also talks of intention. So intention and knowledge are two different things. From here we go to 300 firstly, and from this intention we go to 300 secondly and 300 thirdly. 300 secondly also there is intention to cause bodily injury. And here also intention to cause bodily injury. So in this case we cannot apply knowledge part. So it is not mathematical, you understand that there is intention to cause bodily injury, here also intention to cause bodily injury, intention to cause bodily injury. This is what is written in Pratik. I hope you are listening to me carefully. So there is, and 299C it is knowledge, so knowledge comes in 300 fourthly. So from here to here, not possible, not possible, not possible. Section 303 must carry both cognition and volition to impute liability. Cognition and volition. Intention is always cognition and volition. Prerna. Intention is always cognition and volition. I have explained this point yesterday. I said, now first you have both, and then you desire. Volition is desire, cognition is that knowledge. So first you have knowledge, and then you have this. Is this clear? Is this all right? Is this clear? भाई अब चलें आगे. Now let us move further. So till this point we discussed difference between section 299, 300. Now let us move further and let us see the exception. And this is, there are 5 exceptions. Now what is the effect of these exceptions? You just see, it says in section 300, except in the cases hereinafter accepted. We start with this. Except in cases hereinafter, just see the language. Except in cases hereinafter accepted. So those cases which are accepted here, hereinafter accepted. So your case from section 299 goes to section 300. And then from section 300 goes to exception. The moment it goes to exception, your case comes back to section 299. This is what is the effect of exception. It takes the case back to section 299. So that is why it is written except in cases hereinafter accepted. Except in cases. This is except in cases. Except in cases hereinafter accepted. Is this clear? So, those cases which are accepted in section 300, they will come back to section 299. They will come back. So, basically, the criminality will be diminished. The criminality will be little less the moment it goes back to 299. Now, what are those situations where this will happen? And see, it says further in section 300, culpable homicide is murder. So, culpable homicide has to be first and then it will be murder. So, if the case does not come in 299, it can never go in section 300. You must understand this. The case has to come first in 299, then only it will go in section 300. Otherwise, it cannot happen. Is this clear? Now, let us see exception one by one. We'll see it quickly. When culpable, now you can ask a question, when culpable homicide is not murder. When culpable homicide is not murder. Not murder. So, answer is there. It says culpable homicide is not murder. If you read Bare Act carefully of IPC, you will have much of clarity. It contains a lot of information. Culpable homicide is not murder if the offender, see how I am reading this. You must understand the art of reading Bare Act also. If the offender, whilst, how I am writing, just watch, deprived of power of self-control. Those who are doing this, those who are studying either for this examination or that examination, or for LLB or for any matter, maybe for IAS, maybe for judicial services, maybe for LLB, maybe for understanding, you are practicing, you are a judge and nothing doing, you can take help of this art of learning law and especially art of reading Bare Act. So what I'm saying here, culpable homicide is not murder if the offender, this is exception 1 to section 300. See how I'm reading this. If the offender was deprived of power of self-control by grave and sudden. It is not only grave, grave and sudden. So it should be grave as well as sudden, both, and. Grave and sudden provocation. If the offender was deprived of power of self-control by grave and sudden provocation, causes the death, see carefully, the definite article, of the person. This is what is to be noticed. Who gave the provocation? So if you cause his death, you are protected in this exception, partial protection is there. Or causes death of any other. This is causes death of any other. By mistake or accident. By mistake or accident. Is this clear? So, if the offender was deprived of power of self-control, at that time when he is deprived of power of self-control, he is not in control by grave and sudden provocation, and something has provoked him gravely and suddenly, and then at that moment, He causes death of the person who gave provocation. Will you punish him in the same way? So question arises, should hot-blooded murder, which is there in exception 1, and cold-blooded murder, which is there in section 300, should be treated at par? The answer is no. The answer is no. Hot-blooded murder should be given little bit exemption. Should be given little bit exemption. And this is what is done here, hot-blooded murder. So that is why we have diminished the liability. We have diminished the liability. But you have to remember, number one, that he should be deprived of power of self-control first. Second, the provocation should be grave. Third, it should be sudden also. And fourth, he should have caused the death of the person who gave the provocation, or anybody else by accident or mistake, not deliberately. Now, see, there are illustrations in this where provision where you will find that this point has been clarified. Now, and if your provocation is caused by something done in obedience to law, can you take defense of this provocation? The answer is no. If anything provokes you, suppose the police wala comes and he says, I will arrest you because your name is coming in an FIR, and now you are gravely provoked, suddenly provoked, and you do something wrong, will you get any protection? The answer is no. Provocation of law is no provocation. That is what you are required to understand. And there are other provisos also. Above exception is subject to the following. Provocation is not sought, but provocation should not have been sought voluntarily. Second, not given by anything done in obedience to law. Provocation of law is no provocation. Third, provocation of law is no provocation. Third, provocation is not given by anything done in lawful exercise of right up. Is not consequence of a right of private defense. So if I am exercising right of private defense and somebody against me is gravely provoked by my exercise of right of private defense, can he take benefit of exception 1? The answer is no. Not voluntarily. I will mark important portion for you. Not voluntarily. Provocation of law is no provocation. Not consequence of RPD. Then provocation not given lawful exercise, where the provocation was grave and sudden. Now then there is explanation whether the provocation was grave and sudden enough to prevent the offence from amounting to murder is a question of fact. So provocation is a question of fact. Provocation was, I should write like this, I just change it. This is explanation. Graveness and suddenness of provocation is a question of graveness and suddenness of provocation is a question of fact. Is a question of fact. Graveness and suddenness of provocation is question of fact. Is this clear? So you have to keep this. Now, if you keep this much in mind, you can write a beautiful point on this or answer on this. Now you can read illustrations very carefully. It says A, under the influence of passion, excited by a provocation given by Z, intentionally kills Y, Z's child. Is it protected in exception 1? The answer is no. This is murder inasmuch as the provocation was not given by the child and the death of the child was not caused by accident or misfortune in doing an act caused by the provocation. So this doesn't fall in exception. Either you should have caused death of the person who gave the provocation or somebody else's death, but by mistake or accident. But is it so? The answer is no. So will you get protection? The answer is no. B. Y gives grave and sudden provocation to A. A on this provocation fires a pistol at Y, neither intending nor knowing himself to be likely to kill Z. This is unfortunate. Who is near him? But out of sight, he cannot see it. A kills Z. Here, has he any intention to kill Z? No. Here he has not committed murder, but merely culpable homicide. Now this exception will give you only this much benefit, that the murder will convert into culpable homicide, nothing beyond that. It doesn't now totally exempts you from criminal liability, it only diminishes your liability. So is this all right, my dear friend? Illustration B. Illustration C. A is lawfully arrested by Z. A bailiff. A is excited. Now, bailiff is doing his act under the direction of law. Bailiff is that person who has come to your house to serve you some process or to take your property or to execute some action of law. He is excited to sudden and violent passion by the arrest. He is lawfully arrested by Z. So he is executing the process of law, a bailiff. He is excited. No. So you are provoked by anything done in execution of law. Is it a kind of provocation? No. This is murder, in as much as the provocation was given by a thing done by a public servant in the exercise of his power. Is this clear? Provocation of law is no provocation. So this is murder. This is murder. You will not get any, So illustration A, illustration B, illustration C. Just, it says killing of, I tell you how to do it. Killing of other person. Other person and not provoker. Not provoker. Murder. Here, killing of other, but by mistake or accident. Culpable homicide, not murder. So you understand, you got benefit of exception here. And here exception benefit? No. No. See, killing of bailiff, executing legal process, murder, no exception. D. A appears as witness before Z, a magistrate. Z says that he does not believe a word of A's deposition and that A has perjured himself. A appears as witness before Z, a magistrate. Z says that he does not believe a word and that A has perjured him. A is moved to sudden passion by these words and kills Z. This is murder. So magistrate can say anything during the legal trial, during the trial and during this process, and this is totally exempted, and he is within law when he says that. He says that I don't believe you, so nothing wrong it. So killing of magistrate exercising lawful power, murder, no exception, no exemption. Clear? This is how you should make your notes also, very briefly. You cannot memorize all the illustrations, but you can take this and you can use this in your arguments, in your answers, in your understanding. A attempts to pull Z's nose. Z, in exercise of the right of private defense, lays hold of A to prevent him from doing so. A is moved to sudden and violent passion in consequence. So Z was exercising his right of private defense and you kill him. This is murder. Killing of Z exercising RPD, right of private defense. This is murder. Is this clear? This is how you can read quickly, very quickly, all the illustrations. Z strikes B. B is by this provocation excited to violent rage. A bystander intending to take advantage of B's rage and to cause him to kill Z puts a knife into B's hand for that purpose. B kills Z with the knife. Here B may have committed only culpable homicide because B is under provocation. So B gets defense of exception 1 and B will be punished only for culpable homicide. But as the bystander, he was not within the provocation, he was not within the exemption, he was not given grave and sudden provocation, he will not get the benefit. Is this all right? Is this clear? Exception 2. Now, before I go to exception 2, let me tell you a little bit more about this grave and sudden provocation, otherwise I will forget this. Just to give you brief understanding of this grave and sudden provocation, I must tell you this exception 1 talks of grave and sudden provocation. So if the provocation is grave but not sudden, or provocation is sudden but not grave, you are not going to get the benefit of grave and sudden provocation. Is this clear? You are not going to get the benefit of grave and sudden provocation. Are you clear on the point? You are not going to get any benefit of grave and sudden provocation. And it should not be all provocation. It should be such provocation which deprive you of power of self-control. Then only the law will give you any kind of exemption. If I ask you, my dear friend, to do something in exercise of law, can you say that I am provoked? Or the bailiff has come to arrest you, can you say that I was gravely provoked? So, first you understand the point. It should be grave, or you can make like this, grave, sudden. Exception. Grave, sudden, exception. Grave, not sudden, no exception. Not grave, sudden, no exception. And neither grave, not sudden, no exception. Clear? This is how you should understand this. This is point number 1 which I made. Is this all right? The second point which I made, I have to make it quick because otherwise I'll be wasting your time, precious time. Provocation should be, what should be the nature and character of provocation? I said provocation here should be such provocation which can provoke a person. Provocation should be such which can provoke a person in same situation as the offender is. And the test to be adopted is test of a reasonable person. Test of reasonable person. It's test of reasonable. Provocation here should be such provocation which can provoke a person in same situation as the offender, and the test to be adopted is test of a reasonable person. See, the same thing, now I just give you a very raw kind of understanding. See, there are 3 kinds of people: high class, middle class, and low class. I must tell you that, see, middle class is the most conservative class. The high class and the low class has a little bit more freedom. High class has enough resources at hand and they are now busy in enjoying their life. So they do not care much about that. You must have heard people talking rubbish about many people. I see sometimes some kind of now YouTube and other things, WhatsApp messages where I find filthy comments written about some good, great people who are doing good service to the society. But people write very filthy things because that is how they get popularity. Let's see, this is what they are standing like now, and Modi ji is shaking hand with that, and Mrs. Ambani is with that person. So that kind of filthy comments come. But they are not involved in this because they have their own agenda. They are doing something wonderful. So I'm not saying, I'm not endorsing their view and their, I'm just quoting an example. There may be many wonderful people here and there. From different corners of India and from different political parties. I'm just taking an example. So they are busy in their things. Is this clear? I also live little bit social life, and people allege, people say something wrong about us. We don't mind that. Low class people, they have no resources at their end. So what is there? So the best enjoyment for them is sexual promiscuity. They have more freedom in their society. They do not bother much. I am saying it very generally. Don't take it otherwise. Take it in proper context. It's my request with folded hands. I'm not defaming anyone. I'm just saying it in comparative way. That is what is the understanding in general. And middle class, they are very conservative. They do not have all resources, and at the same time, they do not give that much freedom to their own children and to their own people. So that is the problem. So what I said, that in such a situation, what happens? That the people of middle class, has less freedom, and their less freedom, and there this question will arise more. Is this clear? Is this clear? So it has to be taken care of. So when we read this Nanavati case, then the question came there in Nanavati. And Nanavati is a classic case on the point. K.M. Nanavati versus State of Maharashtra. You must have heard the case there where wife confessed about her relationship with some person. And then in that situation, wife confessed about relation with some person. And then this person, Nanavati, goes to Prem Ahuja. And when he goes to Prem Ahuja, he leaves his wife and child at cinema hall, and then he goes to his office, he takes his revolver, he goes to Prem Ahuja's place, and then he doesn't find Prem Ahuja at his business place, then he goes to his house, and there he has a kind of altercation with Prem Ahuja, and he asks a question to Mr. Ahuja, will you marry my wife? And Ahuja says that am I supposed to marry with all women with whom I sleep with? And perhaps that enraged, that is how the fact has been said, this Nanavati, and Nanavati has killed him then and there, and that is how he is demanding a kind of relief in section 300 exception 1. Can he be given this exemption? That is the question. So question arose in this case that, see, Nanavati has been already told about this relationship by his wife. So he had enough time to cool down. But this is not a simple incident. It must have worked on Nanavati's mind, and he might be getting now hotter and hotter rather than becoming normal and cool, calm. It might have been working on his mind constantly, and he might have been thinking, and so it might have enraged him further. Then he leaves his wife and now child at cinema hall and goes to his office. Takes revolver. Now question arises, why did he take the revolver? So does it not give impression that he has gone there with all preparation? And if it is so, if he has gone with all preparation, should he not be disallowed benefit of exception 1? The answer is yes. So it may be grave, but the question arises, was it sudden? It might have been grave, it might have been acting on his mind. It is grave situation, we can appreciate and understand. But was it sudden? Perhaps the answer is no. and that is why the benefit was not given to Nanavati. Just understand this. And you must understand to whom this is available, to whom this grave and sudden provocation is available. Who will avail this benefit? Only husband or no? No, I tell you. In one case, what has happened, a beautiful case, you must understand. In one case, there was a father, and there is uncle of, and this father has a daughter, and he is a senior man, and uncle is junior to father. Now, daughter has a relation with a boy. His uncle tells him, threatens him to desist from his act. Just try to understand. Uncle threatens and warns the boy not to continue his relation with the girl. Father does not say anything. Father does not object, but uncle has much objection. And what happens? One day uncle kills him. So 299, 300 is not question that we have crossed. That is how the exception question comes. Now the question is whether he will get benefit of exception 1 or not. And now uncle has seen the girl with the boy and that enraged, and that is how uncle has killed him then and there. Now question arises, can he be given this benefit? That is the question. The question here is, can uncle get benefit of this exception 1 when father is already there? Father is the guardian of this daughter, not the uncle. So can uncle avail the benefit? The answer is no. No benefit to uncle. Why? The reason is but simple. This is a restricted provision. Here we will give exemption or exception to one who has the guardianship or who has control over that particular person. Otherwise, everybody will claim and everybody will try to avail this benefit on this pretext or that pretext. On the same ground, this will not be available to boyfriend and other people. They cannot say that I will avail this benefit. Or to nephew or to other people. They cannot claim that kind of benefit. No, 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 no. No, no, not at all. Not at all. So this is limited. At best it can be said to be available to father or husband or brother, no, something like that. Close relations, very close relation. In case of mother, it may be son or daughter, they can avail. Husband, wife, always usual. But generally we find here cases like where wife is indulged in some kind of thing and husband avails this, or husband kills somebody. We have not read case the other way around, but there may have been many cases other way around also now, because this can happen even other way. Husband will be, maybe, or boy may be involved with other people, and that might have enraged the wife or the other one. So that can also happen, but that kind of case has not come. Just understand this. Is this all right? So it is not available to boyfriend or nephew or something like that. No, 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 no. Fiancé, no. Fiancé, no. It is not available to fiancé, to whom you are going to marry. To whom one is going to marry. To whom one is going to marry. Fiancé. So it is not available to. Not available to him. He cannot say that unless and until there is some legal relationship. This is not legal relationship. You have just now agreed to do it, but this is not final unless until marriage is there. So I hope you understand this point. Sometimes there may be a question that as far as suddenness is concerned, in one case what happened, a husband left a place with his wife just to avoid wife's paramour. He left that place and he went somewhere. Now one day when he comes from his working place for lunch, then he sees his wife sitting with that person and eating food together. And on this, husband gives that paramour injury or hurt by a bill hook. Bill hook. Bill hook, you might have seen something like that. Now, we have many bill hook like this where we keep the bill here. This bill hook. So, we have pages here. Now, bill hook. So, now he has given injury by bill hook. Is this clear? And the person dies. Question arose, can husband be given benefit? He saw his wife earlier in some kind of compromising relation or condition with that Paramar way back earlier. He left the village. Then today he has seen his wife eating food. So eating food is not a very bad thing or very objectionable thing. Anybody can eat food with somebody. But the problem is this, that the background which was there in his mind and today's scene, when they are combined together, then it may be graver. It may be graver. That, see, I have left the village due to this reason and this person is following her here also and he is disturbing my marital life. So that might have enraged him, and that is why this will be considered a grave provocation. In one case, what has happened? A husband and his brother-in-law, that is wife's sister's husband. Wife's sister's husband, they were sleeping together on a cot. And when he wakes up in the night, he sees that his wife's sister's husband is not there. And when he peeps into his wife's room, he sees that they are having some kind of sexual relationship with each other. They are having sex with each other. He does not react at that time. He comes back and he sleeps at his cot. Now after some time, when his wife's sister's husband began dodging, he began sleeping, then he gives him some injury with knife which was there with him, and the person dies. Now question arose, can it again be called a sudden provocation? Because time has elapsed. Time has elapsed. So can it be called sudden provocation? That is the question. Can it be called a sudden provocation? That is the question. The court said in such a case that it will fall in the exception 1 and it will be considered a case of grave and sudden provocation. Why? Because see, this is general tendency also, when your enemy is near you or when the person who has cheated or ditched you is near you, then you are enraged more. Your blood boils more. So that might have happened with this person and he acted now under that impression or under that impact. So he should be given benefit of exception 1. I hope you have understood exception 1 of section 300. Is this clear? Is this all right? Right of private defense, I have already said this is right of private defense. When you exercise right of private defense, then you do not weigh your reactions in golden scale. So there is always chance that you may cross the limit. And when you cross the limit, now sometimes this kind of wrong might happen. And if this has happened, now you should not be punished with same severity. Rather, there should be some relaxation. So see, it says, culpable homicide is not murder if the offender in the exercise in good faith, not in bad faith, of the right of private defense of person or property exceeds the power given to him by law and causes the death of the person against whom he is exercising such right without premeditation. He crossed the limit but without any intention of doing more harm than is necessary for the purpose of such defense, and then he will get the benefit. If he is within the limitation, it is not an offense. This falls in section. Now you just understand, if he is within limitation, if he is within limitation of section 96 to section 106, benefit of a right of private defense is available. And in this case, it will be no offense. Is this clear? It will be no offense. Now, when this exception 2 will come in the picture, it says, in exercise of RPD, right of private defense is being exercised in good faith. Exceeds causes death. So, when you can cause death? When you can cause death? When you can cause death. So, you have read section 100, you can cause death in body-related offences. Section 103, you can cause death in property-related offences. But in 101 and 104, even within limitation, you cannot cause death. So, suppose your case is in 101 or 104, but you cause death. Now, you are exceeding the power, exceeds power given by law. Then in that situation, without premeditation, there should be no premeditated mind that you are prepared earlier, it will happen, then I will kill him. No, nothing like that. And without any intention, without intention of doing more harm. If you intended and you did more harm, you gave him unnecessarily 10 knife injury deliberately, then you cannot get the benefit. Then you are more criminal. Without intention of doing more harm. Then necessary. Without intention of doing more harm than necessary. Without intention of doing more harm than necessary. For the purpose of defense. Without intention of doing more harm than necessary. Without intention of doing more harm than necessary. Then in that case, you will get the benefit of exception 1. Then here exception 1, you can write like this. Exception 1 to section 300 will come in picture. But when? It should be RPD, right of private defense, it should be done in good faith, exceeds power. I said, in 100 or 103 you can cause death. That too within limitation. Cause death doesn't mean that you have got license to cause death. No, not at all. 101 and 104 you cannot cause death. You should not cause death, but you cause death. Causes death. Without premeditation. Without intention of doing more harm than necessary. Is this clear? So in such a situation, when you exceeded the right of private defense, especially in 101 and 104, what I said, and that has been done in good faith, is this all right? So in that case, you will get the benefit of exception 2. Now see, here the illustration makes it very, very clear. Illustration makes it very, very clear. You read this illustration, Z attempts to horsewhip A. Not in such a manner as to cause grievous hurt. So if there is question of causing grievous hurt, then you can exercise right of private defense in section 100. A draws out a pistol. Z persists in assault. Yes, exception 2, not 1. Yes, exception 2, not 1. This is wrongly written here. No. It is exception 2. Everybody knows this. This is clear. That attempts to horsewhip A not in such a manner as to cause grievous hurt. to cause grievous hurt to A draws out a pistol. Jets persist in assault. A believing in good faith that he can by no other means prevent himself from being horsewhipped. A good faith in belief so. A draws it. Jet persists. A believing in good faith that he can by no other means prevent himself from being horsewhipped. Shoots Jet dead. Shoots Jet dead. A has not committed murder, but only culpable homicide. Why? Why? See here again. Now A is using what? Right of private defense, but he exceeds because it is not grievous hurt. In case of grievous hurt, your case will fall in 100. So you can cause death. But it is not in grievous hurt, so your case falls in 101. Can you cause death here? No. No. So you exceeded your limit. But he believes in good faith that he cannot prevent himself from being horsewhipped. Shoots Jet dead. A has not committed murder. But only, you should not have done this, but you did it. So you have to understand that if he falls in this 100, if he falls within the limitation, then it is not an offense. It will be only offense when he exceeds the power. But it is also a little bit mistake. He is being punished for exceeding the power. That is why he is being punished here. Otherwise he would have been saved. He would have been protected. Is this clear? Exception 3. Culpable homicide is not murder if the offender being a public servant or aiding a public servant acting for the advancement of public justice exceeds the power given to him by law and causes death by doing an act which in good faith believes to be lawful and necessary for due discharge of his duty as such public servant and without ill will towards the person whose death is caused. Public servant. Obviously they should get some kind of exemption because they are required to perform such for public justice. Exceeds power. Causes death without ill will. So see, I am giving him little bit exemption. Causes death without ill will. If you do it deliberately, then you cannot get benefit. Without ill will. Now somebody asked a question, if somebody points a gun, if a person comes to arrest me, he is not required to point a gun always towards me. If I am going along, why to point gun? What to do? But if a public servant says that if I'll kill you, even in right of private defense, you must have read that in section 99, generally you do not have right of private defense against public servant. But if he, but except in case of causing death or grievous hurt. So, if he causes death of yours, you can exercise right of private defense even against public servant. Now, you have read this in, you might be aware of this section 99 of IPC. You can see this, there are threefold limitations in section 99. Two are person specific, third is time is specific, T for third, T for time, and fourth is force is specific, F for fourth, F for force. So, we have read it, but you can see it further. Public servant for public exceeds power, causes death without ill will. So again, So if it is without ill will and now exceeds power, then we will give, and only benefit is that his case will be transferred from section 299 to section 299. This is only benefit available to you, effect. It doesn't exempt you totally. Is this clear? Now fourth is sudden fight. Premeditation in a sudden fight, in the heat of passion upon a sudden quarrel, and without the offender having taken undue advantage or acted in cruel or unusual manner. Without premeditation, again and again exception 4. Without premeditation, sudden fight, heat of passion, sudden quarrel, no undue advantage, without premeditation, sudden fight, heat of passion, sudden quarrel, no undue advantage, no cruel or unusual manner, then in that case, exception 4, culpable homicide is not murder. Sudden quarrel, see again, this is suddenness which saves or which diminishes liability. It may happen sometimes. No undue advantage, no cruel or unusual manner, then it is immaterial in such cases which party offers the provocation or commits the first assault. Who did first assault is immaterial. Is this clear? Exception 5, culpable homicide, consent death, whose death is caused, being the above age. Now, a person above 18, if he gives consent to death, then you can get the benefit of this exception 5. This is called the suicide pact, or this is called consent death. It should be person above 18 who can consent. So, exception 5, consent of person above 18 years. Not murder, but culpable homicide. Is this clear? Death is caused of person consented. So your liability will be diminished. See illustration. A, by instigation, voluntarily causes a person under 18 years of age to commit suicide. So person under 18 cannot give consent of death. So here on account of he was incapable of giving consent. So he has therefore abated murder, not suicide. He cannot give consent to death. So we have not abated culpable homicide, we have abated murder. A instigated a child below 18. So child below 18 cannot consent for death. So that in that case, murder will not result into or convert into culpable homicide. So what you abated basically? You abated murder in that case. You abated murder in that case. He was incapable of giving consent to on death. So you abated murder. Is this clear? So that is how we cover the exception, all exceptions. So we have covered so far the basic points in 299 and 300. No, and then this 5 exceptions. I have told you to read Birsa Singh case carefully, and almost all cases which have been decided by Supreme Court is based on that. You just understand the 5-stage journey up to 99, 300. Apply your mind, read Baer Act carefully, read illustrations carefully, read recent cases. We will also add cases to this lecture which we have given so far. But till the point, you must have understood everything. Section 299, section 300, through 3 explanations, then all 3 illustrations there, all illustrations in section 300, and all 5 exceptions. Is this all right? Is this clear? So till this point we have covered section 299 and 300 totally.